My name's Aleya, and I have a 16-month-old named Anav, and he was born at 34 weeks and 3 days. I had like a typical pregnancy up until then, um, and then sort of overnight had sudden onset preeclampsia. And so we wound up at the NICU. We wound up transferred from our birth center to the hospital and then ended up at the NICU. And a few days later, that's where we met Emily, who is our PT. And we got to know the team at Masonic. And yeah, I'm really grateful for that team. They came like to work with him right away when he was in the NICU. And then we basically just got to keep Emily as ours when we left, she came over with their team to do the evaluation, and we got to keep her as our PT. We were in the NICU. We worked with a PT, which was Emily. We worked with a speech therapist. We worked with a feeding specialist, like an IBCLC, and um, and yeah, and everyone said like when you leave here, once they kind of saw what he needed in the NICU where he was like developing, we were only there for 19 days, but comparatively, that's very short. Um, but once everyone saw what he needed and um where he was like a little bit behind or could use some help, that's when we were told on our discharge day, they were like, you have EI. There's no question, it's an automatic in, especially for a 34 weeker. And basically like they'll call you. And that's what happened. I got an email and then a phone call and scheduled and called it a day. Having a PT that we started in the NICU with move with us into our home, like I mean move as far as services into our home and um like just having the trust there right away. She like he already had quirky things about him in the NICU, and so being able to sort of make that transition with her, and she already knew like what his little body did or didn't do, or where he kind of held more of his strength or what his preferred sides were. Um, Helped us sort of, I feel like me be comfortable with her working with him right away. He was so teeny and I knew he'd be behind. I work as a birth photographer professionally, but prior to that I was a nanny for over 20 years. So my experience with like tiny babies, starting with newborns and generally staying with them until they were teenagers, like multiple families, I knew what the proper milestones and development looked like. And I really feel lucky to have Emily, who's so well versed in her skill set and expertise, and is able to really teach me about expectations, set the expectations clearly for what I can see in a preemie. Because though he was born at 34 weeks, he isn't a term baby. There's a lot of things that he has some delays on, even if they're not significant delays. Um, but really has just been so gentle and delivered all of her information with like such love and care. And I think, the feeling is mutual between Anav and Emily that like he loves her. He loves when she comes over. He loves to play with her. She really, she suffered through his reflux days with me as she like taught him how to roll and he continued to vomit on her. Um, and has also just been like a really steady, just kind of a steady, grounded force in our life to sort of just keep us in check of like when things were really tough. I knew I'd see her every 2 weeks. I knew she'd be able to say like, yep, I've seen this in other kids before, or here's something that you should expect that's next. It's going to get easier. I'm a solo parent, and so there isn't someone else at the end of the day to hold, like, to hand the baby off to. At the end of the day, when it's really hard, it's still me holding the baby. So it was always really nice to have her company and also her expertise in my home. Because I use an all Masonic team and we're at Masonic, like we were at Illinois Masonic for his birth, for his NICU time. We became really close with our NICU team and our EI team. Like I've never, and then our coordinator is incredible. I could just jump on a phone call with her and she's like ready to go. We did a couple virtual in last winter, either because of like weather or we were out of town and my mom's like an hour away. Um, but yeah, I would say we definitely all prefer in person, but when it comes to virtual, I feel like we still got the same care, the same level of care. Obviously, it's a little more difficult to, make sure that I'm helping him. He was just learning, I think, to roll at the time. And so, um, there's a lot more, instead of hands-on, it was a lot more describing what I needed to be doing. But I still felt the same level of care. And if someone said to me, like, you have to switch to virtual for like, 3 months or a significant amount of time, I'd be like, okay, as long as I can use Emily, I'd be happy to do it. Number one, them as a resource, like really being available, whether it's email or a text or a phone call. Um, I think that that's where I would start. All of the therapists that I've worked with not only have like a significant amount of experience, but they come with experience with like this specific type of child, like, right, a premature infant to someone who's worked with infants for 20 years is significantly different in the way that they develop as opposed to, or in comparison to a term baby. So I think I would say number one, the main resource is them. Um, I also think that, like I said, I've only done PT with Emily, so um, for her, like she does bring some toys, or we'll go through like, hey, this is something that you have in your home already, and here is how it can benefit being used by him. That alone is a resource because it means like I, as a solo parent, I'm not out there spending $1 million to go buy a bunch of things we don't in fact need. She says like there's stuff in your home that you can use um that will all do the same stuff, strengths. And we also he has SMOs, which we discovered a little bit like as he started to stand and clearly see like his left foot was a little bit, his left ankle was a little weaker. That's, I mean, it's not, I don't know, that is a resource. It's like we were able to go to the orthotics and go get fit, and we now have them as like, a part of our team. I did IVF, and the journey of IVF takes a lot of coordinating and logistics and like just keeping track and advocating for yourself. And the NICU takes a lot of coordinating and logistics and advocating for yourself or your child. And the same thing, that I learned those skills throughout that journey. And I think that with EI, I'm very lucky that I don't have to use those as intensely, but knowing that it's okay to, you know, ask your questions or give your coordinator a call or um, check in with your with your care team. Like, we had their annual eval, our OT. We had already met this OT, DT, and speech therapist who had come. They came when he was born, or like October or whatever, a couple months old, and then they just came again. And I think that advocating for myself and him um comes into play when I see them only once a year and I say, okay, like let's check in. Like, where is he? Here's the skills that I'm not necessarily seeing. Or, they'll ask you a lot of questions in the moment and you might not be able to think of something, or like, does he do this? Yeah. No, he doesn't do that. And then it turns out that evening, oh, actually he does do that. I just forgot. So all this to say, I think that um the one thing I'll say about EI or anything that you do as a parent is like you cannot be afraid to advocate for yourself and your child. And with the reminder that these people are on your team, it's important to still feel like empowered to do that because you're going to be supported once you tell them, but they can't support you unless you communicate with what your needs are or what your kids' needs are.